Hi, I'm Manny Fitzsimmons. I'm your Washington REALTORS Legal Hotline lawyer. And this video is another in our series describing the statewide forms revisions that took effect July 11, 2023. In this video, we're going to discuss the Financing Contingency Addendum, Form 22A. And in a separate video, we're going to again discuss the same form, but a different revision. So there's two revisions of consequence to Form 22A. The revision that we're discussing in this video, in this episode, is a change to paragraph 1, where buyer identifies the type of loan buyer is taking. And you're familiar with those paragraphs, including a checkbox marks for things like FHA, VA, conventional, etc. The forms revision added a new checkbox for down payment. Anytime the buyer is relying on a down payment assistance program, the best way, I'm not going to say you have to do it this way, but best practices dictate that if your goal is to protect the buyer's earnest money, give the buyer a legal excuse for terminating the transaction in the event that either their substantive loan, let's call it an FHA loan, or their down payment assistance program is unavailable. If your goal is to protect their earnest money, if either of those funding sources is not available, then disclose the down payment assistance program in paragraph 1 of Form 22A. Thinking about some of the down payment assistance programs that are out there, the Washington State Bond Money, which is a program that's been around for a while, and even the not yet released but brand new Covenant Homeownership Account program, funds for that through that program won't be available until 2024. But both of those programs have a characteristic which says that the funds, even though they're characterized as grant funds, are loan funds, because both of those down payment assistance programs are recorded on title to the buyer's newly acquired property in the form of a lien that has to be repaid when the buyer sells the property. Those are loan funds. Those down payment assistance program funds should be identified on Form 22A, paragraph 1, by marking the substantive box for whatever the loan type is that buyer is getting, FHA perhaps, and the down payment assistance program. With that, if buyer is unable to get either the loan or the down payment assistance, buyer will have a legal excuse for terminating the transaction for so long as buyer's financing contingency is in place. You should not use the down payment checkbox if what buyer is getting is a gift from grandma or a gift from anybody, for example, or any form of down payment assistance that is not an institutionalized down payment assistance program. If what buyer is really doing is going out and getting a gift from somebody, a relative, a friend, anybody, that has to be disclosed on Form 22EF under the contingent funds paragraph. You mark the box in that case for gift funds. Because when buyer is getting gift funds, not through an institutional down payment assistance program, buyers should know going in to their offer that they're going to get those funds. And so they're telling seller by marking the box on Form 22EF, hey, I basically got these funds. They're in somebody else's account right now, but they promised to give them to me. You don't have to worry 1 minute about whether or not I'm going to have these funds, seller, because when buyer discloses on Form 22EF, buyer also makes a promise to seller, the very last provision of Form 22EF, evidence of funds addendum, says that if buyer is unable to obtain those funds for any reason, then buyer will be in default of the transaction and seller is entitled to the remedy identified on the face of Form 21 for buyer's default. In most cases, forfeiture of earnest money. So That's what you do, buyer broker, if what buyer is relying on is truly a gift from somebody. Separate that, however, from the institutional down payment assistance programs like the Washington State bond money, like the Covenant Homeownership Program. Those are institutionalized down payment assistance programs. The best way to protect buyers' interest in the transaction is to identify those on Form 22A under paragraph 1 by marking the box for down payment. If you have questions on this forms revision or anything else, please ask me a question by visiting warealtor.org and following the links to the legal hotline. Thank you for being a Washington REALTORS member.